Hello, everybody. This is Patrick White. Good to see you back again. As you remember, last week we talked about the first step, and we're going to talk some more about the first step today. We're going to do a little deeper dive into it. Just like to thank you all for joining in on this podcast. I hope you're getting something out of it. As you noticed on the page previous to me coming on the screen, that my email address, my phone number is there. And if you want to Zoom with me anytime, just text me or email me and let me know, and I will call you and we'll set up a time that we can do that. Love to hear from you. The second part of the first step that we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the id, the ego, and the superego and how it relates to keeping us in denial that we have a problem. And by the way, this is the only disease known to man that has that component of denial. It is diagnosable and it is treatable. The id is a part of us that wants or needs things. We need food, we want sex, we want security, we want companionship, and that's just a raw emotion. That's just a raw need. Okay, that's the basic of all human instincts. And that's what it talks about in step 4 when it talks about our instincts have far exceeded their intended purpose. So then we have the ego. Now the ego keeps us in check. Okay, it says, no, you don't need that much, or you need this much, or maybe you're going too far out of bounds. And if I get you all this that you want, it'll probably kill you. Okay, this superego is a self-esteem, our self-importance, and our conscience, and our virtues and our morals. Now, the problem with all of those, when you introduce alcohol or any other mood-altering substance into your system, the effect that it has upon the ego and the superego is that it numbs it out. It can't operate, and that's why we say we have a altered reality when we're under the influence. So when we're under the influence of drugs and alcohol, the only thing that's really working is the id. I want, I need, I got to have it right now. And without any control and function in the brain to stop it, we go out and get what we want. Now, alcoholics and addicts are predisposed that when we drink and we drug and we introduce those substances into our body, we have an allergic reaction. And that allergic reaction is, I want more. Well, without the ego and the superego kind of controlling the id or the I want to get drunk. I go get drunk. I don't think about the consequences. I don't think about the effects of on my health. I just go get what I want, and to the detriment of my life, my family, my job, my social status, my self-esteem. It doesn't care, So all you're operating on is, what do I want? I want to drink. And once I become obsessed with the thought of drinking, then of course we know that we cannot recall into our consciousness any good reason why we shouldn't. That's because the ego and the superego have been put to sleep by the chemicals that we're ingesting in our body. We absolutely cannot control what we're doing. So when you look at that component of denial, you have to know that that's what's going on. It's not that you're a bad person or you're an immoral person or that you're a stupid person. It's that with the alcohol and drugs ingested in the system, it puts the ego and the superego to sleep so that it's not functioning. In a normal circumstance, you're sober. You're sober. You think about doing something that's wrong. Your ego kicks in and says, wait a minute, that may not be exactly what you want, but boy, it sure would make you feel good. Your superego says, we're not going to do that. It's immoral. It's not right. It's not what we need. It's not fair to the other person. So without those controls in place inside us internally, we just go do whatever we want. You know, we lie to anybody we can to get what we want from them. And then most of the times we throw them away like an empty beer bottle. And also with no thoughts of right or wrong. We just do it because we want it. We're following the most basic instincts within us. I want to be rich, so I'll steal from people. I'll manipulate them. I'll con them. I'll deceive them. You know, I want to be famous, so I'll go here and do things that make me famous. I want this girl. I want this guy, so I'll lie to them. I'll tell them whatever I got to tell them to get what I want. That's what the id's all about. I. There's also a talk we'll do later on called Me, My Higher Power, and I. And it's along the same lines. So in denial, it sets us up for loss of control or powerlessness. Powerlessness, of course, is once we've ingested that chemical, we cannot predict with any reliability what's going to happen, how it's going to end, when we're going to stop, how much we're going to use, until we become incapacitated, incarcerated, or dead. So when you've got those two components, you've got denial and your ego saying, or your id saying, go for it. Your ego is asleep. Your superego is asleep, and you can't stop yourself. You go out and you take that first one. And with our chemical makeup and the allergic reaction that we know is absolutely true, then things become unmanageable. We cannot control ourselves. We cannot be a family man. We cannot be a good employee. We cannot be honest with ourselves, let alone anybody else. We go commit crimes to satisfy the id's request for more drugs. We end up in jail. Eventually, we're out of money. We're broke. We're homeless. We're on the streets, and we're living the lie. And the only thing that we're living for at that point is to get what the id wants us to have, and that is more drugs, more alcohol, to the point that our life is so unmanageable, we can't control anything in it, nothing. Because most of the time, by the time we get through, or we come to the point where we think we might actually want help, there's nothing left. The family's gone. The kids are gone. The job is gone. The money's gone. The health is going. Our hope is fading. And we feel alone and frustrated. And all we can do is satisfy that basic need, basic want, that we want to get high. And that's addiction. That, pure and simple, is addiction. Now, once we've done the first step and we understand that we're not bad people trying to get good, we're sick people trying to get better. What the sickness is that we have totally put to sleep 66.6% of the controls within us internally that keep us from doing something that's destructive to ourselves. We've lost control. We've lost any brain function that says that's not a good idea. And that is the legal definition of insanity. When I cannot find anything within me or within my brain that stops my body from doing something that's self-destructive, even to death. And we end up in a pickle. And we go to therapy, we end up in treatment, we go somewhere for help. We want somebody to tell us, what is wrong with us? What's happening to me? Why can't I stop? You can't stop because there's nothing within you to make you stop. The only thing that can control the urges of the id, control the wants and the needs and the basic satisfaction of our instincts, is pain. When pain enters the picture, the id is constricted. It cannot operate. I want to get high, but I've lost my family, and that hurts. And I've lost my job. I don't have any money. I'm destitute. That hurts. There's nothing the id can do to relieve you of the pain of the destruction of being out of control and unmanageable. So you don't like the pain. You don't want the pain. You realize something's got to change. So you enter into a treatment center. You go to a halfway house. You go to therapy. You get a psychiatrist. Please help me is what we say. Please help me. And sometimes we'll even kneel down and pray to God and say, God, help me. And then the journey begins. You come in, you start learning about recovery, and you look at that first step, admit you're powerless over your drug of choice, and your life's becoming manageable. We get into a situation in treatment where we can't use, so our mind begins to clear up. The id's still doing its thing. The ego's kicking in a little bit. The superego's kicking in a little bit, and you're feeling the shame and the guilt and the remorse because of that superego. And the ego going, hey, we can't have all this anymore. We can't do this anymore. It's killing me. I'm dying here. Help me. So they begin to discuss with you about the 12 steps of whatever addiction you've got. And you look at that first step. Now, that first step, when you write down, when you start doing that first step and you write down and answer all those questions about how alcohol and drugs has affected your life, and you are sober, then your ego and your superego are able to say, wait a minute, something's wrong here. The id is destroying you. The I, the want, the I want, I'm going to get it at any cost. It's killing you. It's causing you all the problems there are in your life, and you still want to drink. So they begin to show you the 12 steps to a way of life that not only alleviates the obsession to drink and use, it also shows you how to use the id, the ego, and the superego to recognize what the defects are, recognize the shortcomings, and to start giving you the guidance to right living that they're designed to do, inherently designed to do. They are designed to say, hey, this is the right way to live. You're going down the wrong road. Stop it. But once you've introduced a mood-altering chemical into your brain, your reality changes, and that reality is the only thing that you can respond to is that id, that I want, I need. So I'm going to go get it at all costs, no matter what. And in the end, when we start working those steps and we begin to look down through those steps, as we go along in our recovery talk, we're going to be looking at how those steps address the id, the ego, and the superego to get you back on track to a normal way of thinking, a normal way of looking at your actions and behaviors. We're also going to be looking at the root causes of your behaviors in the first place. Could it be from a dysfunctional family? Could it be from abuse? Whatever it is, whatever the beliefs are that you created as a child that helped you survive your childhood, most of them aren't working as an adult. So as we begin to look at that stuff in the fourth step, we begin to realize just how far out of whack um, our ego got, because there was no regulation within us to say, hey, stop it. That's not the right way to go. So if you'll join me next time for podcast number 3, we'll be looking at the second and third step and what that means in terms of trying to get your ego and superego back in check by using someone outside of yourself to help you realize that you have lost control, that you have become totally insane, in that there's no controlling function in the brain that keeps you from doing some self-destructive. So if you'll tune in next time, I'll start talking about the second and third step. I do appreciate y'all listening in. I hope you're getting something out of it. If you want to email me or call me and give me comments and suggestions on what I might do next, or what you agree with or don't agree with, this will also be put on my Facebook page at Patrick William White. It'll also be on the Recovery Church of Knoxville Facebook page, and I will be sending it out in emails to those of you that are on the waiting list. God bless you, and thank you for listening.